Hey everybody, welcome back to a special live edition here on Guns and Gadgets. We are going to cover in my opinion, the treasonous act of President Joe Biden as he today will discuss and sign his 22nd, yes, 22nd executive order related to the Second Amendment. We know that executive orders do not carry the weight of law. Executive orders have become, in the last couple, 4 or 5 presidents, a way to effect law, but they are not law because Congress are the only ones who can actually write law. So I am going to do my best to keep up with the chat as much as I can. I do want to say, first off, because of the video I did this morning related to this, YouTube has been stomping on reach. So please like the video and share the video so more people see it. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue to grow and bring this information to the masses because people need to know what Joe Biden and his people are doing. Thank you, everybody who is here. And for those who will watch this on the replay, my hat is off to you. Thank you for your time. I have an advanced copy. I have the actual executive order. I'm going to put it on the screen. We'll show you some sections that he's going to touch on. And then we'll wait for the White House feed to go live. And we'll try to keep my eye on this as best as possible here. But if I can do this without screwing it up, let's add this to the screen. Boom. This is the actual executive order that he's going to be addressing us about today. We're going to start here on section 2, excuse me, as I look to my left. They're going to talk about implementing the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. In other words, we gave all these states this money for red flags. We're going to teach people how to use it. We're going to encourage people to use red flags to violate people's rights, go around the Constitution. That is going to be the first thing he's going to talk about. The next thing he's going to talk about are additional agency actions related to gun violence. And this is going to be something we should pay attention to. This is going to be a rule change by Merrick Garland and the ATF related to who, at what point, becomes or should become by law a federal firearms licensee, meaning how many guns can I sell privately before I have to become an FFL, thus push all my transactions to the background check system. That is coming today. We're going to talk about that. Steve Franklin, thank you so much, sir, for your kindness and your generosity. Show everybody that. I don't want to miss anybody. Thank you, sir, for your time and your love constantly for this channel. The next thing he's going to talk about after he talks about the FFL section is pushing things on people. We're going to have different campaigns. The first one is to promote safe storage of firearms. The next one is to educate people about red flag laws, how they are, again, how to file them, and please use more of them is what he's going to beg for people to do. Then he's going to hit on other things such as like a FEMA-like type response that he'll go over here. Like when a mass shooting happens, he wants the government to swoop in. And some of this I actually agree with. He wants the government to swoop in and help with services like mental health and counseling and stuff like that they should absolutely be helping Americans with, because that's a big problem in America's mental health. But then there's like, if then they want to pay for everybody. They want to have programs that, like, if a business closes because of it, then the government should provide funding. If somebody is the breadwinner of the family happens to be injured or where they can't provide anymore, or even worse, he wants the government to jump in. So more taxation, more spending, bigger government is what he's going to hit on that one. He wants to, this is a big one that we should be aware of and very nervous about. He wants to share more information. You're going to hear it in a couple different ways here. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you so much for your donation to the channel. It means a ton. Thank you so much. And M.H. Caffey, thank you very much. Unconstitutional laws are not valid. Absolutely. So he wants to share a few things here. And again, I'm going to jump off of this, go to watch the feed. We
remember and mourn today, but I'm here with you today to act. Last year, after the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, I signed into law, after being both places, a Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, most significant gun safety law in almost 30 years. That was in addition to me signing more executive actions to reduce gun violence than any of my predecessors at this point in their presidencies. Today, I'm announcing another executive order that will accelerate and intensify this work to save more lives more quickly. First, this executive order helps keep firearms out of dangerous hands, as I continue to call on Congress to require background checks for all firearm sales. And in the meantime, my executive order directs my Attorney General to take every lawful action possible to move us as close as we can to universal background checks without new legislation. It's just common sense to check whether someone is a felon, a domestic abuser, before they buy a gun. The executive order also expands public awareness campaigns about the red flag orders, laws, which my son, before he died, Attorney General in Delaware, was a great proponent of and instituted. So more parents, teachers, police officers, health providers, and counselors know how to flag for a court that someone is exhibiting violent tendencies, threatening classmates, or experiencing suicidal thoughts that make them a danger to themselves and others, and temporarily remove that person's access to firearms. And it promotes, this executive order, safe storage for firearms, something every responsible gun owner agrees with. Second thing it does, the executive order ramps up our efforts to hold the gun industry accountable. It's the only outfit you can't sue these days. It does that by calling out for an independent government study that analyzes and exposes how gun manufacturers aggressively market firearms to civilians, especially minors, including by using military imagery. And it directs the Attorney General to publicly release alcohol, tobacco, and firearms inspection reports of firearms dealers who are cited for violation of the law. That way, policymakers can strengthen laws to crack down on those illegal gun dealers, and the public can avoid purchasing from them. Third, the executive order improves federal coordination to support victims, survivors, and their families and communities affected by mass shootings. The same way FEMA responds to your natural disaster in California and all around the nation, and it will help folks recover and build after wildfires and superstorms and droughts. For example, we need to provide more mental health support and grief and trauma, and more financial assistance when a family loses the sole breadwinner or when a small business shuts down due to a lengthy shooting investigation. There's more in this executive order, but I'm not stopping there. Last week, I laid out on my budget that we invest more in safer communities and expand access to mental health services for those affected by gun violence. Congressional Republicans should pass my budget instead of calling for cuts in these services or defunding the police or abolishing the FBI, as we hear from our MAGA Republican friends. But let's be clear, none of this absolves Congress the responsibility from the responsibility of acting to pass universal background checks, eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. And I'm determined, once again, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. I led that fight to ban them in 1994. The 10 years that law was in place, mass shootings went down. Our Republican friends let it expire 10 years later. And mass shootings tripled since then, tripled. So let's finish the job. Ban assault weapons, ban them again, do it now. Enough, do something big. Folks, let me close with this. Scripture says, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. A lot of us have been there. As we gather here today, I know your hearts are broken. but I know your spirits are strong. And as you remember and heal, I know the light of your loved one is once again going to lead you forward. It takes time. I tell everyone, at least it did with me, it takes time. But I promise you, the day will come when the memory of your loved one brings a smile to your lips before it brings a tear to your eye. The tear will never fully go away. But when you had that smile first, remembrance, that's when you know. That's when you know you're going to make it. You're going to know you're going to make it. My prayer for all of you, that day will come sooner than later, but I promise you, it will come. God bless you all. I admire you so damn much.
All right. This is a farce. Stand by. He didn't even go over the actual order. Stand by. I have the order. Let me pull it up. I can't believe you just did that. Well, I can. Let me see. First off, I apologize for the audio. There was an update that was forcing me to do. My bad. All right, check this out. Actually, let me know. You guys want to see the executive order? Do you even care? Give me a thumbs up if you want to see it. If you want to see the executive order, I'll go over it, everything that's in it, so you know what he's trying to do. Give me a thumbs up if you want to see it. If not, we'll end this. But let me know. I would, yes, good. See a bunch of yeses. All right, let's do it. Let's jump right into this craziness. Because I think it's insincere of the federal government to have this and not actually have him do the actual executive order. It's crazy. All right, let me pull up the executive order. Here it is. Let's share that. Okay, I'm going to minimize my dopey head, and I will try to make it big enough for y'all to see on your end. All right, here is the executive order that he just didn't even talk about. He mentioned a couple quick things. This is his little speech that he opened with that we muted him on, which is fine. It's just the sob story. If you want, I'll link it. It's actually linked into the description. Section 2, this is where we start the gun control. Let me move my microphone here. Implementation of the Bipartisan Safer Community Act. The Attorney General, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Secretary of Education, and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall each submit a report to the President within 60 days of the date of this order describing what actions their respective agencies have taken to implement the Act, data and analysis regarding the use and early effects of the Act, and additional steps their respective agencies will take to maximize the benefits of the Act. And we are talking about the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, but specifically this is the red flags that he knows and loves so much. Let me move this over to here, see if I can get a full screen better. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's what he wants. That's the red flag portion. The Section 3 is additional agency actions to reduce gun violence. The Attorney General shall develop and implement a plan to 1. Clarify the definition of who is engaged in the business of dealing in firearms and thus required to become a federal firearms licensee. So this is like if I sell a face-to-face gun in Massachusetts from one license to carry holder to another license to carry holder, it is 100% lawful and legal. We've both gone through all the background check system. Our licenses are active. That's legal. This is saying that they want to stop that. And if you sell firearms face-to-face, then you should be an FFL, thus forcing those sales to go through the 4473 in the background check system. In order to increase compliance with the federal background check requirement for firearm sales, including by considering a rulemaking as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. There's another ATF rule that will be coming. Mark my words. 2, to prevent former FFLs whose licenses have been revoked or surrendered from counterfeiting to engage in the business of dealing in firearms. 3, publicly release to the fullest extent permissible by law inspection reports of FFL dealers cited for violations of the law. And 4, support efforts to modernize and make permanent the Undetectable Firearms Act. Now that is something from the 80s. From like Die Hard and the Glocks and the Tupperware guns. and it's due to expire the end of this year, December of 2023. They want to modernize it. They want to put in 3D printing. They want to make 3D printing firearms illegal. How they're going to catch up with that now is beyond me. Stand by. Let me kill this notification here. The next one. B, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, including through the Surgeon General of the United States, the Secretary of Education, and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, basically the entire cabinet, shall expand existing federal campaigns and other efforts to promote safe storage of firearms. How they're gonna tell you guys and gals, law-abiding folks, how to store your lawful owned items in your home. Piss off. C, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, including through the Surgeon General of the United States, and the Secretary of Education shall undertake efforts to encourage effective use of extreme risk protection orders or red flag laws partnering with law enforcement, healthcare providers, educators, and other community leaders. They want to teach you, your family members, your kids, your neighbors, your mom, how to file a red flag law on somebody to revoke their rights. In other words, they put forth all that money in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Now they want some action. They want that the squeeze, the juice to be worth the squeeze. D, the Attorney General, Secretary of Health and Human Services, including through the Surgeon General of the United States, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, and the heads of other agencies, as appropriate, shall develop a proposal for the President and submit it no later than September 15th of 2023 on how federal government can better support the recovery, mental health, and other needs of survivors of gun violence, families of victims and survivors of gun violence, first responders to incidents of gun violence, and communities affected by gun violence. The proposal shall draw on existing evidence where available and take into account how to address needs in both the immediate aftermath of mass shootings and in the years following such events. The proposal should recommend any additional executive branch coordination and additional resources or authorities from the Congress needed to implement the proposal, as well as how agencies will assess the outcomes for the activities implemented. This is that FEMA type response I talked about in the beginning. They want the federal government to come in after an event and pay for everything and pay for counseling, and if people can no longer provide or businesses shut down, to pay them, and more taxes, bigger government, more spending. Just keep the criminals in the criminal holding cells. Don't let violent criminals out with a slap on the wrist and wonder why they're going out reoffending. It's crazy. E, the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security, shall develop and implement principles to further firearm and public safety practices through the Department of Defense's acquisition of firearms, consistent with applicable law. Now, I've been struggling on this one here since I got this at about 3 p.m. I don't know if they're talking about federal buybacks through the DOD. I don't know what they're talking about, but I will be paying attention to that because it's very, very vague. And when they have vagueness, that's where they usually operate in to violate rights. F, the heads of federal law enforcement agencies shall, as soon as practical, but no later than 180 days from the date of this order, ensure that their respective law enforcement components issue national integrated ballistic information network submission and utilization policies with requirements that are equivalent to or exceed the requirements of the policy issued by the Department of Justice on December 12 of 22 to ensure the prompt entry of ballistics data recovered in connection with criminal investigations to NIBIN. In consultation with the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense policies may be tailored to address specific operational considerations. They want that trace data, and they want to make it available to the public so that groups like Everytown and Brady and Moms and you name it can utilize that information to start suing gun manufacturers and to start suing gun shops out of business for negligence. G, the Secretary of Transportation, in consultation with the Department of Justice, shall work to reduce the loss or theft of firearms during shipment between FFLs and to improve reporting such losses or thefts, including by engaging with carriers and shippers. So the government's going to get involved with how UPS or FedEx ships firearms now. H, they've already been doing it behind the scenes, right? The Federal Trade Commission is encouraged to issue a public report analyzing how gun manufacturers market firearms to minors and how such manufacturers market firearms to civilians, including through the use of military imagery. How they're marketed in video games, in posters, in comic books. These are the issues we spoke about at the very beginning of this. This is how the PLCAA, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, was defeated, basically, was end-arounded in the Bushmaster case, when Bushmaster was sued out of existence in Connecticut. How groups in Texas are looking to sue Daniel Defense because of the issue that happened in Uvalde. This is how they're trying to do it because it's been successful, and they're only going to continue to try to push through that dam that they see has been cracked. Section 4, the definitions. This is for purposes of this order, the term federal law enforcement agency means an organizational unit or subunit of the executive branch that employs officers who are authorized to make arrests and carry firearms, and that is responsible for the prevention, detection, and investigation of crime or apprehension of alleged offenders. The term heads of federal law enforcement agencies means the heads of those units or subunits. 5, general provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1, the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or 2, the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. And B, this order shall be implemented consistent with the applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations, means you got to have that money. C, this order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any part against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. Joseph R. Biden Jr., the White House, today's date. So that is the executive order. And for some reason, the president was talking about the executive order, didn't even talk about the executive order. Don't know. But now you know what went down today. That was just signed, and there will be a big push on the things I just mentioned. If you want to stay in the know, guys and gals, you know I'm going to do it for you. So please subscribe to the channel. I will keep you in the loop. Remember, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, now that we have the update and this is working fine, we will be going through the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting where Senator Dick Durbin wants to talk about how to protect public safety after the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Brewer decision. I assume it's going to be very anti-gun. It's coming from the Senate, which is still a Democrat-controlled House. So we'll see what happens there. I will have it for you live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Been a long day. We waited an hour for that idiot, and then for some reason an update popped up, but we fought through it. Thank you for your time. For those who want to watch this on the replay, I will cut that audio mishap out so you don't have to wait that long. But until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. That's what it's for. This old dirty bastard and all of his handlers aren't big enough or bad enough to take our rights from us because they didn't even give them to us. I'll see y'all on the next one. Take care, and thank you for your time on this live stream. I appreciate it, and fighting through the audio issue with me. Take care, y'all.